In stage 2 of this training video, we will be looking into the periodontal section of the patient record and also the clinical notes. The first treatment option on a patient's menu is the periodontal chart. This will then show us any previous perio recordings, but in the case of this patient we would select New to set up the periodontal exam. We can then set the performer, the points, and the order it will be recorded. You can customize the order and direction as shown, and we can then select which items from our list below we are going to record against. When ready, just select OK and it will set up our new perio exam. The first option we have is Properties, which will allow the user to adjust the perio exam if a mistake has been made on setup. We then have Depth displaying in amber, as that is what we are set to record against. Below we have the options for bleeding, plaque and suppuration, as well as the keypad to do the recording. To record, you just select the options on the keypad. And we can apply bleeding by selecting the red bleeding mark. We also have the plaque mark in yellow and the suppuration in green. Now to record a value higher than 9, you select the blue arrow to select the double-digit value. Another way of recording the values, however, is to use your keyboard and type the values. You can select B on the keyboard for bleeding, P for plaque, and S for suppuration. You can also click anywhere on the chart to record from that point, or correct any errors made. Once you've completed your first recording, the system will then automatically move on to the next one, which in this case is mobility. Once your record is complete, select Save, and this will become part of the patient's history. It will display with the date of the recording, as well as the bleeding and plaque percentages. It will also show the performer who did it. The perio can be edited on the same day as it was recorded. From there we have the option to print, and there is also a compare feature. To use the compare feature, the patients need to have multiple perio exams, so we will create a new exam using the previous recording. I can then make some changes, and once complete, again just click Save. Now that the second perio has been recorded, we can select Compare, which will highlight the differences between the two. I have the options at the bottom to select from 2 of the perios, and the ability to print that screen. Within the periodontal screen, we also have the B.P.E option, which allows us to record a new B.P.E or review the existing ones. To record the B.P.E, enter the values onto the B.P.E chart. Applying a 1 will automatically add bleeding. There is a furcation marker which can be applied, and if you want to manually apply bleeding, you just select the bleeding marker. There is an option of recording the plaque score and percentages for bleeding, plaque and bone loss. There are also questions regarding plaque control, gingivital condition and periodontal status. The B.P.E chart and the questions below will be transferred to the clinical notes automatically along with any notes recorded on the B.P.E. Once you've completed the B.P.E, just select Save and it will become part of the patient's history and display in the bottom left of your periodontal screen. We also have the option of classification on a periodontal screen, which automatically calculates the classification of periodontal disease using the data inputted on the periodontal chart, the percentage of bone loss, and the patient's age. Select Assessment and it will provide the results of the classification and allows the user to select the performer at the top. Once okayed, this data will also be saved to the patient record and will be visible on the periodontal screen in the bottom left. The clinical notes can be used on any of the treatment screens on the right. The blue arrow allows me to slide them on and off the screen. There is also, however, a separate Notes tab. From within this page, I can scroll through the history to see the date and the username of who wrote the note, and the top box allows me to manually add a clinical note. Once I've clicked Save, it adds to the patient's clinical notes under the dentist's name and the date it was added. We can also use quick text templates. By selecting a folder and then double-clicking on our template, we can use it for this patient. We can also use multiple templates within one note. Once the template has been added to the patient's editor, we can adjust it to reflect for the patient. Again, once we've clicked Saved, that becomes part of the patient's history. Now within SFD, there are other ways to add clinical notes. I can also do this from our treatment form. By adding a treatment item, I can double click and I can have a note section on screen. To the right, I have a list of templates, and I can also group those templates. So for example, select my exam, double click to add in the quick note. I can then adjust the template for this patient and select OK. The little icon at the end is to show me that a note has been wrote against that treatment item, and that will become part of the patient's clinical notes. The note will display under the treatment item it was assigned to, in this case the clinical exam. Now we also have the option to edit notes up until midnight. I do this by selecting the note I want to edit and then make any changes to that. I can adjust size of font, colour of font, and also set it as bold, in italics, or underline if I want to make it stand out. Now I've clicked Save, my note will update on the system. Now if I want to remove a note completely, I load it back into our view and then clear the text. When I click Save, it'll prompt me that I'm going to clear the note, and if I definitely want to continue with that. If I select Yes, that will then remove the note from the patient's history. The clinical notes also contains a spell checker, and another useful feature is the TCS button, which stands for a treatment completion screen. This is commonly used for X-rays. The screen allows us to record the type of X-ray, its justification, and the evaluation plus any additional notes. Once we've clicked Save, that will update into the patient's clinical notes. I can edit the template at the bottom and then make changes and click Save. There's also a useful Find Text icon. That allows us to type in a keyword and find all the matching words within that clinical note. I'll just check my spell check to make sure it's complete.